Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we will present to you about the Shariah Audit program of Ocbc Al-Amin Bank Berhad. Before we go further, let me introduce myself first and others members. My name is Nurul Imani Binti and my matric number is 1190823. Next is Nurul Syakirah binti Anas, matric number 1190812. Next is Suraya Binti Mutalib 1190856, and the last one is Zawani Zahirah binti Zool Nasri 1190872.
Background of the bank. Ocbc Al-Amin Bank Berhad is an Islamic bank subsidiary of Ocbc Bank Malaysia Berhad that was established on 1st December 2008 to strengthen the bank effort in Islamic banking. More than a decade after the bank, Negara Malaysia first starting offering Sharia-compliant banking and product services in 1995. Ocbc Al-Amin Bank Berhad has been moved from Islamic window system provided and operated by Ocbc Bank Berhad for 13 years. Before the establishment of Ocbc Al-Amin Bank Berhad, Ocbc Bank is the longest established Singapore bank formed in 1932. It is now the second largest financial service group in Southeast Asia by assets and one of the world's most high-rated banks, with an AA1 rating from Moody's. As an Islamic bank registered under Bank Negara Malaysia, Ocbc Al-Amin Bank Berhad is not exempted from the terms and regulations which is enforced by BNM, such as Central Bank Act 2009, Islamic Financial System Act 2013 and Shariah Guideline Policy Document 2019. All these guidelines and regulations need to be followed by the financial institution to be complied with Sharia principle and banking regulation. Due to that, Ocbc Al-Amin Bank Berhad managed to appoint the key organs of Sharia governance in the Islamic banking institutions, such as Board of Directors that consists of 5 independent non-executive members. Other than that, the key organs that involved in the banking operation is top management and Sharia committee members. Ocbc Al-Amin Bank Berhad is advised by 5 Sharia experts as Sharia committee members from various branches of contemporary Islamic knowledge. The Sharia Committee's report of Ocbc Al-Amin Bank Berhad, the members of the Sharia Committee confirms that the overall operations, business affairs and activities of the bank are in compliance with Sharia principles, except there is one issue on Sharia non-compliant event. It arose from the delay and non-execution of commodity murabahah transaction for several financing accounts. The Sharia Committee has reviewed and deliberated the matter and endorsed the rectification plan. Other than that, the bank also has taken the necessary steps to rectify the Sharia non-compliant event and mitigate the risk by strengthening internal process and controls. By that, there is no issue on the Sharia audit process from the previous Sharia audit program, and implementation of the audit process for the new financial year can be done easily.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Suraya Adnin Binti Mutalib and my matric number is 1190856. Okay, next I will continue with the next part of this presentation, which is the explanation about the product that we choose to be audited, which is Manarat Home I. Manarat Home I offers cheap floating rate home finance that complies with Sharia. Besides that, this financing facility that assists customer in either financing the purchase of a residential property for owner occupation or refinancing an existing property from an existing financer. Besides that, this financing forbids the customer from subleasing or allowing third parties to use the property without the bank's prior written consent, except for non-profit social or familial purposes. Also, the payment is made in the form of monthly rentals in the amount specified in the letter of offer, with the principal and profit calculated on a daily rate basis. Last but not least, the excess payment will be used to cover future monthly rentals. Then, there are no time or fee restriction on making additional payments. Instead, the extra payment will help to save money and lower the principal. Furthermore, the excess payment will be used to cover future monthly rentals. Nevertheless, customers are not permitted to withdraw the advance payment.
Now, I will continue explaining about the Syariah contract used for the product. So the contract used is the Ijarah Muntahiyah Bil-Tamlik (IMBT). It refers to lease contract that ends with the transfer of ownership of the lease asset by the lessor, which is the bank, to the lessee, which is the customer, at the end of the Ijarah period. Next, there are also others contract used in IMBT structure. The first one is Al-Bay, which is the sale and purchase of the complete asset. The second one is Bay Istisna, which refers to the sale and purchase under construction assets. It is a contract where the seller sells to a purchaser an asset which has yet to be manufactured according to the agreed specifications and delivered on an agreed specified future date at an agreed predetermined price. The last one is Ijarah Mausufah fi Zimmah, which is the forward lease contract. The bank will enter to IMBT contract with the customer with an advance lease payment. The customer shall pay to the bank advance rental during the construction period of the asset according to the payment schedule.
Okay, now we will move to the next part, which is modus operandi. First and foremost, the bank will offer to purchase the property from the owner under the buy, which is a sale and purchase of the completed asset, or buy istisna, which is a sale and purchase of under construction asset. Subsequently, the customer offers to lease from the bank that property under the Ijarah contract. Monthly payment will be made by the customer as a rental. So, upon the settlement, whether before or on the maturity, the bank will sell the asset to the customer at a price equivalent to the amount outstanding and payable by the customer under the financing. Last but not least, for under construction property, the contract of istisna is applicable. Okay, now we will look at the Shariah Audit Program SIP. Okay, the first objectives of our Shariah Audit Program is to ascertain the product offered is to comply with all the relevant regulatory and Shariah requirements. So for the audit criteria, there are three for this aspect. The first one is a BNM Ijarah Policy Document. Second one is a BNM SSC Resolution on Ijarah, and the third one is the Internet SOP. For the key control of this Shariah Audit Program, the first one is the product Shariah structure has been approved by the Shariah Committee. Secondly, the product offered is approved by the product committee. So for our audit test is to request the Shariah Committee minutes meeting and cite on the product approval. Other than that, obtain the product committee's paper and sign off from the relevant parties such as Shariah Committee, Shariah Advisory, legal, Shariah risk. Okay, the first objectives of our Shariah Audit Program is to ascertain
Shariah Audit Program or Testing Objective number 2, which is to ensure compliance with Shariah requirement in terms of product structure. So the audit criteria or reference that we use is the policy document for Islamic banking from Bank Negara Malaysia, resolution Shariah Advisory Council from Security Commission, and internal manual and SOPs from the Islamic banking itself. So the key control that we want to control is the competency of the staff in delivering the products to the customer and fulfillment of the relevant approval of the products. And the step taken for this audit step is to interview the branch officers that handle the product delivery process to the customers.
Next, I will continue with the next testing objective of this Shariah Audit Program, which is to ascertain the implementation in compliance with Bank Negara Malaysia Policy Document and SEC Resolutions on Ijarah. Okay, the audit criteria for this testing objective is based on first BNM Ijarah Policy Document based on the paragraph 21 and 22. Second, BNM SEC Resolution, and third is based on SOP for Ijarah. Okay, the key control for this testing objective is letter offer need to be accepted by customers opened by the contracting parties based on the paragraph 12. Ijab and Kabul. And next, Shariah screening on the customers need to be done to identify whether the financing is for the purpose of Shariah compliance or not. Okay. Last but not least, the audit test for this testing objective is first to request and check the legal documentation, which is a letter offer and facilities agreement, whether the customer had accepted and signed off the document and next is to check the Shariah screening checklist, whether it has been properly executed, and as well as there is a checker maker sign off happen.
The last one is the testing objective is the price was predetermined and mutually agreed by both parties, which is the seller and purchaser. For the audit criteria, we will refer to a policy document for istisna, section 16.1 and 16.2. Besides, we also refer to internal manual and SOPs. Next, the key control is to ensure the price of manufactured asset is disclosed, which is documented properly to the customer. The last point is the audit step or test is by citing the agreement which is indicating the details of the items and selling price.
So this part will explain the comparison of Shariah contract between the Shariah parameter and PDS of the product. There are three contracts that will compare here. The first one is the Ijarah Muntahiyah bi Al-Tamlik IMBT. Second one is the by istisna, and the third one is the Ijarah Mausufah fi Zimah. So, for the first comparison on Ijarah Muntahiyah bi Al-Tamlik IMBT based on the definition. Shariah parameter BNM Ijarah policy document stated that the Ijarah Muntahiyah bi Al-Tamlik is an Ijarah contract which ends with the lessee owning the leased asset and shall contain a mechanism for the transfer of ownership of the leased asset from the lessor to the lessee during or at the end of the lease period. So the transfer of the ownership from the lessor to the lessee at the end of the lease period may be affected by way of sale, condition hibah, or the wa'ad to hibah. So based on our PDS, IMBT it's referred to a leasing contract that ends with the transfer of ownership of the leased asset by the lessor, which is the bank, to the lessee. So for the first comparison on Ijarah Muntahiyah bi Al-Tamlik, the second comparison on IMBT is based on the dissolution of contract. Shariah parameter BNM policy document stated that the contract shall dissolve upon the occurrence of four circumstances, while on the hand, based on the PDS, there are a lot of occurrence that may affect the contract, but we just take four of them here. So for the Shariah parameter based on BNM, the first one is a mutual agreement between the contracting parties to terminate the contract. Second one is any contracting party exercise its option to terminate the Ijarah contract within an agreed time period. So the third one is the lessee who has paid the urbun in the Ijarah contract does not exercise the option to continue the contract within the specified time. So for the PDS, the first one is the event or default may happen on istisna contract, such as the first one is a non-completion or non-delivery of the istisna asset. Second one is any action that taken for resolution past which may lead to winding out, liquidation, bankruptcy, dissolution, or presentation of a petition. The second comparison on IMBT is based on the dissolution of contract. Shariah parameter, the last circumstances that will dissolve the contract based on the Shariah parameter BNM policy document is due to the total disruption of the leased asset, except for Ijarah Mausufah fi Zimah, or where there is a prior arrangement between the contracting parties to replace or substitute the leased asset. So, continuing the also dissolution of a contract based on the PDS, the legal proceeding, suit or action of any kind whatsoever, whether criminal or civil, is instituted against the customer. Last but not least, any change in applicable law or regulation makes it impossible or unlawful for the customer or the bank to continue with the contract.
Next, for the purchase price, in Shariah parameter, where the leased asset is purchased upon expiry of the ijarah contract, the purchase price may be at a nominal value agreed between the contracting parties at the prevailing market price at the time of the sale, or determined in accordance with other method of calculations mutually agreed between the parties on a willing buyer and willing seller basis. Meanwhile, for PDS of Manarat Home I, the owner shall make an offer to purchase the property from the bank on occurrence of an event which is the except on total destructions of the property and terminations of the term financing I facilities. The offer to purchase property shall become unconditional and capable for acceptance by the banks in accordance with the terms stated in the offer to purchase property. On the bank's acceptance of the offer to purchase property, a sale, which is Al-Amin, contract is formed, and the ownership of the property shall pass to the owner, subject to the owner shall pay the bank's sale price. Okay, the last one is transfers of right and liability to another party. In Shariah parameter, where the lessee decided to discontinue the ijarah, the lessee may transfer all his rights and liabilities to another party who will assume the lessee's role to continue with the ijarah and ultimately own the asset. The lessee is allowed to discontinue the ijarah and transfer all his rights and liabilities to another party subject to the mutual agreement of the contracting parties. But in PDS for Manarat Home I, guarantor liabilities is up to the amount stated in the schedule to the guarantee plus profit on the amount. A guarantor is not released from liability by any of the following events. The first one is any increase, extension, restructuring, or other variations to the financing or facilities between the bank and the customers. The second one is any compromise or indulgence or extensions of the time given to the customers. The third one is the banks did not realize the collaterals given for the debts and liabilities. And the last one is the bank has discharged or released the customers or any collateral.
Next, I will continue with comparison of istisna between that has been stated in Shariah parameters and PDS of the product. Okay, the first aspect that we want to compare is the definition. Okay, based on Shariah parameter BNM, istisna refers to a contract in which a seller sells to a buyer an asset that has yet to be constructed, built or manufactured according to the agreed specifications and delivered on an agreed open future date at an agreed open price. Meanwhile, OCBC Al-Amin provide the definition of istisna as a contract where a seller sells to a purchaser an asset that has yet to be constructed, built or manufactured according to the agreed specification and delivered on an agreed specified future date at an agreed predetermined price. Furthermore, the second aspect that we want to compare is the arrangement of istisna with ijarah mausufah fi al-zimmah. Okay, based on the Shariah parameter that has been provided by BNM, the contracting parties may enter into ijarah mausufah fi zimmah, where the purchaser may list the istisna asset under construction to the seller or to any other party. Meanwhile, OCBC Al-Amin define the arrangement of istisna with ijarah mausufah fi zimmah. During the construction period, the bank will enter into an ijarah mausufah fi zimmah with the customer with an advance lease payment. In addition, another aspect that we want to compare is the responsibility of the customers as the seller. Bank Negara Malaysia provided in Shariah perimeter that customers' right and obligation as a seller must disclose at minimum the following, which are: first, obligation to deliver the istisna asset that has been completed and fulfill the agreed specification, and second, obligation to provide options that arise from non-delivery and defects of the istisna asset. Meanwhile, OCBC Al-Amin state that the customer which will act as the istisna seller is obligated to deliver the istisna asset in accordance with the specification. The customer also agrees to keep track of the progress of the property's construction by the contractor. When the developer gives the owner's vacant possession, the property is constructively will delivered to the bank. Besides that, another aspect that we want to compare is the responsibilities of the bank as the purchaser. As being provided by Syariah Perimeter Bank Negara Malaysia, Islamic financial institution as a purchaser is expected to ensure the istisna asset is completed as per the agreed specification and delivered on the agreed date, since the Islamic financial institution would have the obligation to deliver the completed istisna asset to the customer that arise from the transaction to transfer the ownership of istisna asset to the customer either via the forward sale or lease agreement. Meanwhile, OCBC Al-Amin provide that the bank will act as the purchaser, will accept delivery of a completing istisna asset that meets the agreed open specification and pay the istisna price. Then the bank retains the right to exercise option arising from the istisna done delivery and defects. Okay, another aspect of comparison is late payment charge or LPC. Okay, as been provided by Syariah Perimeter Bank Negara Malaysia, LPC consists of two, which is first, compensation or takwid for the actual loss borne by the seller, which may be recognized as income to the seller, and or penalty gharamah, which must not be recognized as income. Instead, must be channeled to the charitable bodies or Baitul Mal. Okay. Meanwhile, for Manarat Home I, LPC consists of compensation, which is takwid, charges, which is 1% per annum on overdue monthly payments until the amount is paid, or the financing matures, whichever comes first. Okay, meanwhile, second is right to set off. The bank has the right by notice to consolidate and set off any credit balance in the account maintained with the bank against any outstanding balance in this financing account. Last but not least, the aspect of comparison for istisna by Syariah Perimeter Bank Negara Malaysia and Manarat Home I is istisna asset. Okay, based on Syariah perimeter that has been provided by Bank Negara Malaysia, both the istisna asset and the purpose for constructing, building or manufacturing the istisna asset must be in compliance with Syariah. Also, OCBC Al-Amin state that the istisna asset and the purpose for constructing, building or manufacturing the istisna asset must be in compliance with Syariah.
Comparisons of the Syariah Perimeter Bank Negara Malaysia using Syariah Perimeter Ijarah and the product itself, which is Manarat Home I. In terms of the definition, Ijarah Mausufah Bizimah is a contract that transfer ownership of a usufruct for a specific duration in the future based on an agreed specifications by the contract parties at the exception of the Ijarah contract. While in the product of Manarat Home I by OCBC Al-Amin Bank Berhad, the definitions of Ijarah Mausufah fi Zimmah is a forward lease contract with the customer with an advance lease payment. The customer should pay to the bank advance rental during the construction period of the asset according to the payment schedule. Number two, the existence of wa'ad contract. So in the Syariah Parameter of Bank Negara Malaysia, in Syariah Parameter Ijarah, the Islamic financial institution should not invoke the wa'ad to purchase by the customers in the event of any failure by the contractor to deliver the asset within the agreed duration. And in the Manarat Home I, the existence of wa'ad contract, the failure of the facility due to non-completion or destruction of under construction asset for any reasons whatsoever, the bank will refund to the customer all advance rental paid, if any, by offsetting it against part of the istisna compensation amount. So it shows that there is no existence of wa'ad contract in this product. Number three, disclosure requirement. In the Syariah Parameter Ijarah from Bank Negara Malaysia, there is specific disclosure is required on the applicable profit rate prior to the delivery of the asset and the obligation to refund the advance rental to customer in case of non-delivery of the asset and failure to meet the agreed specifications on the asset. So in the product of Manarat Home I by OCBC Al-Amin Bank Berhad, the disclosure requirement is followed by the bank, which is the profit rate shown in the item below is applicable prior to and after delivery of the asset, which is the profit rate is SPR plus 1.7% per annum. It is stated in the product disclosure sheet. And other than that, there is also a disclosure on the obligation to refund the advance rental for the customer in case of the non-delivery asset met by the bank on the product disclosure sheets also. So number four, the arrangement of the contracts. According to the Syariah Parameter Bank Negara Malaysia, the contracting parties under an Ijarah Mausufah fi Zimmah contract may enter into an istisna contract where the lessor may request the lessee to construct an asset that will be leased out in the future. And the Ijarah Mausufah fi Zimmah contract should be executed separately from the istisna contract. So according to the Manarat Home I product from OCBC Al-Amin Bank Berhad, OCBC Al-Amin Bank Berhad also practice separate contracts for Al-Ijarah Mausufah fi Zimmah and istisna contract. So the OCBC Al-Amin Bank Berhad is follow adequately the Syariah Parameter Bank Negara Malaysia, which is Syariah Parameter Ijarah.